Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Because this morning it was the Brexit Secretary, David Davis, who was charged with getting the government's message across. With negotiations due to start next week, he was asked whether the election would change their approach to Brexit.
The thing to understand is that the fundamental central aim of trying to get a free trade agreement, a customs agreement and a continuing agreement on security and other matters is still in the interests of both sides. So that doesn't change at all, and that's what we're driving for. And frankly, that's what I expect and intend.
David Davis. Grant Shapps, do you accept Theresa May has no mandate now for what she said in that Lancaster House speech in terms of Brexit?
No, I don't. I mean, first of all, on Brexit, I was a Remainer. I like to think sort of middle of the road on this, in as much as I would agree that the country has voted to leave and we must now leave.
And leave the single market and leave the customs union.
I think the implication is it's very hard to leave in any other way and fulfil what the country has asked us to do. But I've never been hardline about it.
What does that mean, hardline?
Well, I would say this. I have always felt that having a manifesto objective of reducing immigration to an entirely arbitrary figure of less than 100,000 is to say that this fact is more important than our economy. And I think that is the wrong way round to have this.
So you agree with Ruth Davidson, who is the leader of the Tories in Scotland and had a very good night in her terms, because she obviously increased the number of seats in Scotland for the Conservatives. She agrees with that. She says she wants to put the economy ahead of the issue of immigration. But what does that mean in terms of changing fundamentally the shape of Brexit?
So yes, I do. I mean, I entirely agree with that. What it means is this, I think. If you are talking about the single market, it's clear that we cannot be in the single market because that requires completely free movement of people. But we already accept in this country that some people do come and go, and that there may be a deal around having some sort of visa system that enables people to come work here, which provides sufficient movement for work and jobs only, of course, the thing that we always wanted to do but could never get an agreement with Europe, which might, in your terms, be a softer approach to Brexit than the very hard line of saying, no, this is only about meeting a particular figure. You were saying before about hard line or a hard Brexit.
Well, I mean, let's not use the terms hard Brexit. Let's be specific about what we mean when we're talking about Brexit. So you are still in agreement about leaving the single market,
yes,
which is what the Tories were, and you're
no.
still in agreement with what the party put in its manifesto about the customs union. But so it's about tone.
I think that's actually what the country itself agreed, and I'm not aware of from the Lib Dems that anyone thinks
and you're in total agreement with that too, Barry?
Well, what I'm delighted by is that many Conservatives who previously were going along with the hard Brexit have now said that they agree with us that it is the economy and jobs that must govern the ultimate deal that we have with Europe.
Is Labour still committed? Can I just be clear? Is Labour still committed to leaving the single market?
Yes, because it's absolutely clear that the single market is actually the internal market of the European Union. If we leave the European Union, which we are committed to doing, then we leave the internal market. And with that, we can't have a deal where there is single market or internal market that is without the four freedoms.
Well, hang on. So what did you mean when you said earlier today we need those benefits, and whether they are achieved through reformed membership of the single market and the customs union or through a new bespoke trading agreement is actually secondary to achieving the benefits? So for you, you want to see a reformed membership of the single market, staying in the single market?
No. What I've said, and you've quoted me absolutely accurately.
I have.
What I said was that we wanted the benefits of the single market, which is exactly what Grant says he wants. We've been absolutely clear on this. We want those benefits, and actually the issue of how we get them is secondary.
But that's not the same as reformed membership, because that still says you want membership of the single market, you just want to reform it.
No, it doesn't. It says
that's what you said.
It says that unless you can get a reform deal, so that the whole way in which the internal market is structured.
But you think you can? You think you could get something where you stay in the single market but have a deal on immigration?
Sorry, what we've said is that the government has ruled that out. We've said it's highly unlikely for all the reasons that we've just talked about in terms of the 4 freedoms. Right. The EU have made it absolutely clear that they will not give membership of the internal market unless it is accompanied by the 4 freedoms. But what we're saying is, if they want to offer that, would we turn it down?
Right. So you would, if they offered it and said you could stay part of the single market, as a member of the single market, but perhaps we could reform the 4 pillars that you talked about in terms of freedom of movement, you would accept that?
Well, then we've completely changed the whole basis of what EU membership constitutes.
Right, I see.
I think it's highly unlikely, or I was simply being exact about where we were.
But nothing's changed fundamentally. The two parties are exactly the same in terms of wanting to stay in the. Hang on, let me just. Well, you can debate it, but let me say what it is first.
You've said
you're exactly the same on the issue of staying in the single. Coming out of the single market and coming out of the customs union.
They are saying that they would actually go to World Trade Organization rules. And David Davis, indeed, on your programme, David Davis made it quite clear that he thinks that is something that we should keep as a threat. This is something that we think is ridiculous. Yeah. It's not that that's no deal. There are outcomes.
But Grant, can I just come?
I think I can clear this up actually, because it does, on the surface, sound like we're both saying the same thing about the single market and customs union. But I actually think that the approach that you're suggesting, where there is no backstop, there is no saying to Europe, and if we can't get at least something reasonable that we've negotiated, then our backstop is to say no to a deal. If you don't say no to a deal, then frankly, it's a naive approach, because you end up telling people in advance that they can push you around.
Right, but actually, Grant, the point is now, because of this election and because of what's happened, and because her call for a stronger mandate has been rejected by the people, the EU now will probably think they can push UK around. There's no point threatening no deal is better than a bad deal.
That's actually, and by the way, just to finish my previous point, this is exactly what happened when Cameron went to Europe and tried to negotiate before the EU referendum. Let me finish the point. In our referendum, because he made it clear that there was nothing that would happen if they didn't give him anything, and they didn't give him anything because they knew that he'd already shown his hand.
Right, let Barry come back.
It's like playing a very poor hand, and you're proposing that we play a very poor hand as a country.
Do you think it is a weak negotiating hand to say no deal is better than a bad deal?
Right. My point is simply this, that Article 50 being triggered, there is 2 years to conclude a negotiation before you are ejected onto WTO terms.
World Trade Organization rules.
World Trade Organization terms. So the idea that somehow there is a card that you play, which is that we will...
What if the deal...
Let him answer. Go on, let him finish. All right, it's all right. Go on, Barry.
Okay. The idea that there is a card to be played here, which is that we will walk away, is nonsense. That is already built into the rules of these negotiations. And therefore the point here is, which is the better outcome for the British people? Is it better to say, actually, we will just not conclude a negotiation within that period, and we will then go on to WTO rules, which would mean we had all the tariff barriers, we had all the non-tariff barriers, we had all the problems for our companies and our businesses and our exporters? Or do we say, quite sensibly, that what we must do is we must conclude a deal within that time, hopefully with transitional arrangements, which will see us through thereafter.
Which is what the government said. No, we're going to have to finish it there because we've got to move on. But I just want very finally to say that the Prime Minister's official spokesman has refused to confirm the date of the Queen's speech, the legislative programme that would be presented. It's going to be delayed for a few days. What does that say to you?
I haven't heard that news. Is that just...
No, that's what I'm saying. That's just been announced. Does that say they just can't agree on what's going in the Queen's speech?
I don't know. Presumably that is to do with the negotiations that need to take place.
Yes, about the policies we were talking about earlier. Right.
I've been getting away with